once again, time to say welcome back to Festival Focus, where on Valentine's Day, no less, the only card that you need is the one that David Mullins is about to mark for you as we trace our steps back through the last few days of festival eye catchers. A bit of housekeeping early doors. We do respond and we do read your comments. Those of you saying, stop talking, man, let the Grand National winner talk. Hands up, I hear you. What I will say is we have to assume, by way of mitigation, that not everybody knows the horse or has seen the race. So we do have to give a bit of context. However, I will try and keep them under 5 minutes. Fair play. We'll start. Dysart Enos. Go back to Market Raspberry, Monday of last week, David. Oliver Sherwood's Queen's Gamble was the one they were all talking about before this race at Market Rasen, the listed mare's bumper, but not afterwards because it was a different story. Fergal O'Brien's Dysart Enos keeping on strongly, and eventually she won going away. That added to her impressive performance at Ludlow back in November. With those two performances in mind linked up, would she be good enough maybe for the champion bumper itself in 4 weeks' time? The bookies rate her 12 or 14 to 1. That is Dysart Enos.
Dysart Enos was good in beating the well-touted Johnny Burke mare. I can't think of the name now.
Yeah, Queen's Gamble.
Queen's Gamble, yeah. I thought this mare was unbeatable in Market Rasen. I fancied her for the champion bumper a lot. But she ran a bit keen, she had no cover, and Johnny kicked on plenty early for home and kind of got found out towards the finish. I don't think that's a reflection of the winner being better than Queen's Gamble. I think that's just how it worked out for Johnny. He got no cover, she ran too free. These things happen in bumpers. It's tougher when there's no hurdles there to get them settled. I think you can just maybe forgive that run, and I don't think Dysart Enos is going to ever beat Queen's Gamble again.
That's a great answer. That's a fascinating answer. Stick with me on the last week vibe, because Sir Alan at Naas on Saturday, you can only now avail of odds between 8 and 12 to 1 for Sir Alan about the Boodles Juvenile, the old Fred Winter, after his victory at Naas. If you think that he was runner-up behind Blood Destiny, no less, on his hurdles debut at Cork back in December, and now this Sir Alan has won his next two, and he looks a fair horse for Andrew Slattery's team down in Thurles. Does Sir Alan strike you as potentially festival quality?
I can see him being in the shake-up. Do I think he has anything in hand, or do I think he'll have anything in hand come Cheltenham? I don't think so. He's not the most likely winner. I don't think he's a Brazil or a Gaelic Warrior or something like that. My father trained a second horse. He's a very speedy horse. Probably hit the front a bit too soon because he jumped the second last so well. I still think Charles Burns' horse behind him is probably the one to take out of it for the Boodles. I actually can't think of his name either now at the minute. I'm drawing a blank today, but he was pretty good in Naas, winning the time before that.
Again, good answer. This I'm really looking forward to asking you about. Warwick Saturday, the Kingmaker. Well, the form book tells us that a certain Jonbon is unbeaten, perfect 3 from 3 over fences. But this, as we all know, I suspect, was anything but straightforward for the now former Arkle favourite, who after this trails El Fabiolo in the anti-post market for said Arkle. He's now 7 to 4 or 15 to 8 after what I thought was a puzzling display, really, because he was jumping to the right for a second or two. You suspected maybe Aidan Coleman was even going to wave the white flag and pull him up. What to make of this, David Mullins? Because was it just too bad to be true? No less an authority than AP McCoy said, and these are his words, he looked rusty. That's all. Is that all?
He looked like he got a bit of a fright or something down the back. Those fences come quick at you in Warwick. I don't know what happened. If you pause the race from the turn in and ask, does he win 8 lengths around a quick straight? That's a quick finishing home straight in Warwick. Against a 136 horse of Skelton's, Harry being positive on him. He won by 8 lengths. The engine is still very much there. I think Nicky Henderson might be able to find a way of ironing out his jumping, or maybe just a little confidence, something like that. I think it might have been just a confidence issue. He backed up under Aidan going down the back with those quick line of jumping, and Yeah, I think it was a very good performance still. The engine is definitely still there, because you don't win 8 lengths after making those couple of mistakes.
He won by 8 lengths, conceding £5, but beating by 8 lengths a horse rated £23 inferior. Surely, if he turns up in that vein of form and there is no more time for extra experience, he's going to the Arkle, presuming he turns up with those 3 wins under his belt in tiny fields. You couldn't be too confident, or could you?
I am, yeah. I'm very confident in him still. I think he's still the one to beat. Yeah. I don't think it's a jumping problem. He's well able to jump. We've seen him. We went down to the last and Sandown in the King Henry, and he absolutely winged it. He obviously, something happened on this day. I'll forgive him. He's a novice. It's not something you'd like to see, but at least it happened in Warwick in a 2-runner race. I'm sure Nicky Henderson will have that well schooled out of him by the time Cheltenham comes around.
Fantastic. That is why we have a jockey's insight on Festival Focus. From a novice to a horse who's anything but a novice, Funambule Sivola at Newbury on Saturday, who, lest we forget, last season in the champion chase was 40-1 second to the great Energumene. He's been quiet since. He's not quiet anymore, and he might well be back for more in a few weeks, judging by winning the Grade 2 Game Spirit at Newbury on Saturday. And don't forget, that's the same race he took 12 months ago en route to that mighty run at big odds in the champion chase. For this year's renewal, in what looks a very open champion, is between 25 and 33-1. Could he, Funambule Sivola, David, have a whiff of an each-way shock? Not necessarily win the race, but could he creep into the frame again? And as an addition to that question, the Ryanair, is that also a possibility? Because, of course, without Allaho, he's between 16 and 25-1 for the longer race.
He's a great price at 25-33-1 for the champion chase. You know, last year second, he won well at the weekend. I just would have a question mark over Paul Nicholls' yard. I think he sent out 5 favourites on Saturday. I'm not sure if he won the bumper, but he had four of the first favourites beat. And beat well. They didn't look unlucky or anything like that. At that price, you'd have to take a bit of it each way. Non-runner, no bet at this stage. Yeah, if he tickled your fancy, I couldn't put you off him at that sort of price.
Fair play to you. Transfer to Navan on Sunday, because there's quite a lot of material to go at here. Starting with a horse, Hunter's Yarn, 6-year-old by fame and glory, who won what looked potentially a very warm listed novice on paper. But this lad, adding to his 3 victories in bumpers and in a big field maiden at Naas, did it nicely. What I would highlight is, and from a jockey's perspective, maybe you'd say these were just little wrinkles, but slight mistakes at the 1st, the 4th, and the 6th. And as well, you might remember he sort of bunny hopped the last, but he quickens up really well, and he looks potentially really quite smart. Do you agree with that notion? Because bookies cut him to no bigger than 16 for the Supreme and 20 for the Ballymore Hunter's Yarn.
It was a good performance. This horse obviously has plenty of ability. He came from Pat Dial's, but he ran in bumpers, not pint of pints. Pat Dial normally goes the pint of pint route with them. So obviously jumping was an issue. Listen, he got to the line quick enough on 3 hurdles in the straight in Navan. It obviously didn't affect them too much, kicking them out of the ground. But there's been plenty of horses like that of Willie's. Faheen used to kick a few hurdles out of the ground. Kilulta Vic, he got his mark because he couldn't jump early on. He won the Martin Pipe then in Cheltenham. Sometimes it does take Willie's horses them few extra runs to get them. He wouldn't be massive man to school horses, Willie. I'm not sure he's going to win it. He is a nice price, but yeah, his jumping, I wouldn't worry too much about it.
Hunter's Yarn. Sticking with Navan on Sunday, headline performance from a very big horse, in more ways than one, Blazing Cal for Charles Burns over in Limerick, who, despite being absent for 428 days, not seen on a racecourse since December 2021. Favourite for last year's Albert Bartlett, obviously injury intervened, but that absence, no hindrance, because returning as he did with victory in the Grade 2 Boyne Hurdle over 2 mile 5, he was weak in the market. He won going away, and in doing so earns himself a promotion to at least towards the favourite at the front of the market as favourite or thereabouts for this Stayers Hurdle between 2 and 3-1, depending on where you shop around. It feels like in recent weeks We've obviously talked about a little further back home by the Lee, then Tihupu after the Galmoy and Goran Park. And now we've got maybe yet another new favourite for the stayers. Is this the right one now in Blazing Cal, or do you still favour Tihupu?
It's a funny one, Tom, with Blazing Cal, because we see horses winning, these days now. You get so many racecourse gallops and trainers. They're able to get horses fitter. Charles Burns is a maestro at it. He is one of the top trainers in Ireland. Only he knows how much improvement is going to come from this guy. He said you could think that he was so weak in the market. Maybe he thought he was a bit undercooked. That could be some bit of an indication to how much he's going to improve for it. But I still think Tihupu, we've seen him do it. He has everything in the book. I'm just not sure how much Blazing Cal is going to improve. And after that, such a long time off the track, they can bounce on their second run back. Cheltenham is a big occasion, and it's a tough grueler for 3 Mile. You'd just be a little bit worried. I think Tihupu is the safer bet.
You've just preempted my one sort of side question on Blazing Cal, because let's say, for example, you came in for a spare on this ride. To what degree in the psychology of a big race jockey would you be doubting in your own mind, or at least considering the idea that here's a horse who missed many months, 14 months, 428 days? You just mentioned this notion of a supposed bounce factor. Does it even exist? And if you were coming in for the spare yourself, would that be in the back of your mind that there's the potential for a letdown of such a mighty performance from the layoff?
No, from a jockey's point of view, the bounces, you have to go out and ride the horse, and if he does bounce, he bounces. If he doesn't, he doesn't. That's nothing to do with you. Listen, Charles is a great trainer. I'm sure he probably won't. We seen Tihupu last year. He bounced from the Red Mills hurdle in Gorn, which is on this Saturday as well. Going to Cheltenham here and no race at all. So it can happen. I just think Tihupu is the safer bet, having beaten Classical Dream and Honeysuckle.
I'm inclined to agree on this occasion. We'll go back to Navan, but we will transfer momentarily to Exeter on Sunday. There weren't many runners. There was Lucia for Nicky Henderson, who tanked around to remain unbeaten. Did you agree this was impressive, especially the way she pricked her ears coming to the last 3? Granted, she did make a bit of a hash of the last, but maybe because this was only a second outing over hurdles, was she just getting a bit lonely? And were you impressed?
You'd have to be very impressed with her. Gee, she looks like she has some engine. She's not really bred for the job. I think she's by the Gurkha or something on the flat. She couldn't have done it any better. I knew she made a hash of the last. I don't think that's any problem. She came up the straight with her ears pricked. My way of looking at it is she's either the greatest certainty of all time for the Mayor's Novice Hurdle, or else that was the worst listed Novice Hurdle you've ever seen. And it didn't look like that on paper. She came up there on her own. They didn't go much of a gallop, and the rest of them, they were all kind of beat turning in. So it's a funny way of looking at it. On form, you'd probably have to take it that she's a good thing for the Mayor's Novice. But looking at them coming up the straight, I think she was the only one that finished, or the only one that ran a race. She is very impressive.
Well, if that is the case, she's currently 7-4 clear market leader for the Mayor's Novices Hurdle at the Cheltenham Festival in 4 weeks' time. We're going to finish component number 8 of this week's Festival Focus. Racing loves an underdog and a small trainer story who gets a good horse and rises to prominence. Might that this year, with the potential for the likes of Pat Neville, now in Yorkshire with the Real Whacker. Well, there's another one, this time in County Cork. Jonathan Sweeney has got potentially a good one on his hands in Churchstone Warrior, his first runner of the entire season, only the 12th runner he'd sent out in the campaign. But Churchstone Warrior didn't just win an ordinary race, he won quite a prestigious one, the Grade 2 10-up novice chase in Navan, getting the better of a good finish to see off one that we've talked about in recent weeks, Marla Mission. Second, don't forget, in a Grade 1 at Leopardstown at Christmas behind Gaillard du Mesnil. Does this Churchstone Warrior now belong, at least in the equation, for the National Hunt Chase?
He definitely belongs in it. He's a stout stayer. He jumps well enough, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere near Gaillard du Mesnil again. I just can't see it. They all finished in a heap. There was, I think, 3 lengths separated the first 3 after 3 miles, around Navan, that's a bad sign. Sorry, it's not a good sign anyway. It's not a bad sign. It's just not a good sign of a good race. He didn't bolt up or anything. I just think Galliard de Menil, it's all over if he gets around safely.
There we go. We have it here. If you disagree, incidentally, with that notion, Churchstone Warrior, as we speak, on Valentine's Day, between 6 and 10 to 1, depending on where you shop around for the National Hunt Chase. As is the way, unless you're tuning in for the first time, you probably know the drill. We conclude every week with the choice of David Mullins for performance of the last few days. Names in the frame as follows: Dysart, Enos, Sir Alan, Jonbon, Funambule, Sivola, Hunter's Yarn, Blazing Cal, Lucia, or Churchstone Warrior, David?
Blazing Cal for me, Tom.
Blazing Cal, the winner off the back of a massive long absence of the Boyne Hurdle. Well done to the Burns family, Charles Burns and Philip Burns, with that comeback story. And speaking of comeback stories, that's precisely what we'll be doing in exactly a week's time, running the rule over the coming weekend's action. Thanks for being with us as ever. Thanks to you, David. Good luck this week.